describe to you what has happened with the urban renewal zone. So there have been a couple of hearings. A public hearing where a bunch of folks, including myself and Victor, testified. There were leaders from volunteer groups, leaders from several of the associations, like ACE that we work with in Roxbury, who are also opposed to the renewal of the urban renewal zones. A lot of people testified. Then there have been a couple of closed sessions where the public couldn't participate, but for instance, we got to watch the City Council have a workshop earlier in the week talking about, where the councilors themselves ask questions of the Boston Redevelopment Authority. Now, the piece that's being handed out by Jennifer is something that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention because I talk about it, but I've never actually showed it to people. We actually have created a resource center so that people can actually see what's going on with BRA. It is on the NEWRA, so if you look at the NEWRA homepage, and I know this is an eye test, but you can see that about right under the notice, for the meeting, there's always some little piece of paper here, and then right underneath it, there's this area that says, write a letter opposing the BRA Urban Renewal Zones. Sort of advocating that you do that, because that was our voted position. And then you press the button, and it'll get you to another page, this page. And this page includes a file repository which has a bunch of the letters that we have written, testimony that we gave to the City Council, reports that have been written. Some of you have heard that McKinsey and KPMG did audits that said the BRA sort of wasn't working right. Those reports are here. And also new, just in the past 24 hours, we've included 5 sample letters. So if you want to write a letter, but you've never written a letter before, you can go into this file folder, click on it, and you'll see these letters, some of which were written by some of our members, and they basically just say Concerned Citizen 1, it's Concerned Citizen 1 through 5. I'm not going to be in trouble until I get to Citizen 9, and then the NSA may shut me down. But little Ed Snowden joke there. But the 5 letters cover a variety of styles. You can see what other people have written. I will also say at the bottom of this, and also it's referenced in a link over here, we also have a list of everyone you should be writing to. It's not just the city councilors, it's also the Massachusetts Department of Housing and Community Development. The Mass Department of Housing and Community Development, which is an executive level office, is the co-minder of the BRA. The City Council, our legislative branch in the City of Boston, and the state actually co-manage the BRA, which is not a city government branch. It's actually an independent Massachusetts authority. It's self-sufficient. It collects its own revenues. It's a uniquely structured organization when compared to any other city planning and development organization. And the McKinsey study sort of suggests that this unique organizational structure might be sort of like the Mass Turnpike Authority, one that was might have worked 40 years ago, but maybe doesn't work so well today. And I would agree with that conclusion. But I wanted to make sure that everyone knew, and we've handed out a black and white version of this, but this is our website. You can just click, you can see things. This other thing that I've highlighted is there's an interactive map, because you may say, okay, BRA, so what does it mean to me, who cares, and all that. Where are these zones anyhow? We show that on a nice map, on a Google map, and we also array all of the BRA projects. The dirty little secret the BRA is working so hard to cover up, I think, is that only 30% of their projects are in these zones that they're willing to go to the mat to fight for a 10-year extension on. Whenever I ask Director Golden, what about the other 2/3 of your projects? How are you able to do them since they're not in an urban renewal zone? We can never get a straight answer on that. We keep hearing that it's much better if there's an urban renewal zone. Well, the thing that everyone should bear in mind about an urban renewal zone that really affects you is there's only really one difference between being in a zone and not being in a zone. If you're not in an urban renewal zone and there's a zoning variance, you have the right, if the zoning board of appeals really makes a goofy decision, and a lot of neighbors feel that this decision was an error, you can go to Superior Court and appeal. That's sort of an American right, to go to court and appeal. In an urban renewal zone, you can't appeal. And I've been asking the question, and other folks, City Council President Michelle Wu mentioned this in her recent report to all constituents, that that's one of the troubles that they're having with it, because it's becoming clear that this is a right that's being abridged by citizens. So like Lewis Wharf, take for example. IAG is very much opposed to the project. Sal and Aaron, and Senator Petrocelli wrote a letter that said we're opposed to it too. Seems like there's no way this thing could go through. BRA board could meet and they could just say it's green lighted, just as they did in the Boston Garden Garage project, where all the community came out in opposition. They deferred it, first vote, and then as another vote a couple of weeks later, they passed it. That can always happen. Trouble is here, if that happens and if they greenlight a project, you're not going through the conventional channel now. You can't use conventional appeal. And that's one of the, it's sort of the dirty little secret of the urban renewal tools. It's actually an abridgment of your constitutional rights. And there are a lot of us in the various neighborhood associations that are saying, this is not something that any government agency should be advocating for abridged rights. So maybe they needed it 50, 60 years ago when Boston was in really bad shape and they needed to do some stuff quickly. But that time is over, and it's really time to sunset these zones. So if you go to this website, you'll see the reasons why we've been against this renewal. You'll see the letters. One of the letters, focuses letter 5 focuses entirely on the civil rights issue, which we think is a very big issue. And that's what I wanted to tell you guys about this, because the City Council might vote this as early as next Wednesday. It's really time to write letters. Any of you who haven't written a letter, please go on the website, look at some sample letters, make one your own. You can edit it. They're all Word documents, so everything's fully editable. Download it, choose which one you want, go to town. And then after you've finished your letter, call up 5 of your friends and say, did you know that your rights are abridged because of these crazy zones that they keep pushing? And everyone on the waterfront, everyone south of Fulton Street, no appeal right. Let's make this a big letter writing campaign. I know a lot of the other neighborhood organizations are trying to get their folks out to write letters. I'd like to have the North End turnout in letters be particularly strong. So we put a lot of time into this site. I hope it's helpful. If anyone needs any help writing letters, call me, email, get in touch with anyone on the executive committee. We'd be more than happy to help. I want to open it up to discussion, questions, comments, arguments. Mr. Marks.
What's the current status as to the argument that City Council allegedly does not have legal authority to have this?
There are 2 arguments that have gone to city, to the general counsel, and Victor can correct me on the technicality of who is going to review this or not. One of them is this issue, and Tito Jackson has been pushing this question because it's come up from some constituents that because of the way it was voted 10 years ago, the city council might have abridged their own right to a revote. It's a pretty thin argument because all the city council would have to do is give themselves that right back again and then vote it. So, but the general counsel is looking into it, and I think it's an outside BRA department, city council, as opposed to BRA council, or maybe both are looking at it.
It is the Corporation Counsel of the City of Boston,
thank
who
you.
is the chief officer of the law department.
Okay.
The law department advises the city, the mayor, department heads,
Okay.
and the council. The BRA is, as you have pointed out, a separate organization, which has its own legal department. It's not the city's.
Okay, great, thank you. The second item that's being asked of the same entity is the contention that we've made. Eminent domain powers, which the BRA claims are unique in the Urban Renewal Toolkit, actually exist outside the Urban Renewal Toolkit. And Victor has identified the statute that has an A and B part that grants powers to the city and then some other powers to the BRA. And in fact, if you look at them, they're absolutely peer level. In fact, the city powers may actually be more powerful than the BRA powers. So one of the central arguments that the BRA has been making is they need these tools in order to continue urban renewal. Two areas that, and the argument obviously falls down, two areas. Number one, 67% of the city, they don't have the tools, so how the hell were they able to build the Seaport District, everything in East Boston? How are they going to do Widett Circle? How are they doing Dorchester Avenue? How about all those buildings in Alston Brighton along the Pike? None of that's in an urban renewal zone. So really, you really need these special tools. And of course, the second thing is, we believe these powers replicate powers that already exist in other and are used by other city organizations. It's not just eminent domain, it's every other power, whether it be the ability to enter into agreements, the ability to transfer property, the ability to buy and sell property, the ability to aggregate land disposition agreements and have covenants on land for affordable housing. So it's sort of crazy. We think that there's some specious arguments being made, and we really think that's a big part of the argument here.
Just a minor correction, it's not A and B in the same statute. It's the 1957 statute was created for the urban renewal law, and the 1966 statute was created for the public facilities department. The urban renewal statute, which I have scanned but not read carefully because it would put me to sleep.
Well, then then everyone else is already asleep.
Blight findings and
Yes.
findings of decadence. And then shortly after that is the grant of eminent domain power. So it could be read as saying,
Right.
first you have to find blight or decadence, and then you can exercise your eminent domain power. The 1966 statute creating the Public Facilities Department gives them Public Facilities Commission, gives it eminent domain power for any municipal purpose.
Okay.
And it seems to me municipal purpose is wider than blight or decadence.
Great. I'm going to ask for other questions, and I will promise people we won't give long, detailed, legal, technical answers to anything that people want to ask. Alana, who by the way, Alana Olson from Councilor Savi George's office has joined us.
Thank you, yeah. So first off, I just want to apologize for being late. It's raining and I didn't melt, although I do feel sort of but just wanted to identify myself for those of you who I haven't had the opportunity to meet yet. I'm the Chief of Staff for City Councilor Anissa Savi George, who's one of your 4 at-large councilors. So if there's anything that I can do to help and contribute to this conversation, I'd like to offer that to you forward. But also I just wanted to take a minute to say, obviously from what you guys just saw, this is an incredibly complicated, legally oriented issue, and leadership from Ford, and oh my God, you guys have been amazing. They've done a great job of educating the council and really helping to bring myself and Councilor Savi George up to speed on this. So I just wanted to let you guys know that you're being very well represented, and your issues and concerns about this are being very well represented by the leadership of this group. So just had to throw my little plug in there.
That's great, because that compensates for us putting you guys to sleep on this issue. So.
No, I didn't understand.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of you to say.
And on a related note, if I'm not mistaken, isn't the vote being done by City Council on this issue in public through your efforts as well, or?
No,
Sure.
if they believe they can vote on it, I think they would have had to do a public vote.
Oh,
It
okay.
has to be done in a council session. So, we're just trying to put some light on an issue that I think has not had enough light on it. The BRA has enjoyed, being in dark rooms, smoke-filled rooms for a long. Let's open some window shades, shine some light in there, see what we really find. Is sort of what we're trying to do. Phil.
No matter which way it goes, which department says what's right, what's wrong, is there a possibility of a legal suit?
Well, I think there are several grounds.
No, not by you,
Yeah.
by the party that loses or the party that wins, whatever.
No, there are certainly some people that have said they believe strongly enough that the city council doesn't have a right to vote on it, that there may be some sort of suit on that basis. There's also a strong building case, particularly among communities where they feel that there's been a lot of eviction, Chinatown, where there's uncontrolled gentrification inside some of these zones, like the Washington Park, Urban Renewal District in Roxbury. Some of those communities are looking at this no appeal civil rights violation argument, and they're not very pleased with it. It's, you know, it makes voter suppression, you know, suggestions and seem like child play. I mean, this is actually taking away a legal right that is, you know, written into our Constitution. You know, so it's sort of like, I don't even know how they got to do that. Victor could speak of it, although I'm not asking you to speak of it. It's just, it's, you know, and you know, you guys, I'm relatively new to this. I came from the private sector, but I look into this and I go, what the hell is going on here? And you know, it's not as if that we believe the BRA is doing just a terrible job and should be eliminated. There's some people that feel that way. I think they need to be, you know, repurposed and given a new mission and renewed. There's no question about it. You know, real estate development is a good thing for our city, but we need a quality agency that's focusing on the right things. And I think as long as this urban renewal distraction happens, where they don't have to obey the law, and that feeds to, why don't IAGs work? Why won't they listen to us? Well, because they're sort of arrogant, because they have amassed so much power and they have these extra legal rights. So a culture change needs to really happen, and we hope that this may be part of it. We don't think that we're going to get zero urban renewal zone reauthorization. They're asking for 10 years of renewal. We've said take it down to 2 years, and in those 2 years, work to sunset the zones, to revamp the zones. If Sal believes Sullivan Square needs a zone, there are some really small zones. I mean, there's one just north, or you know, just around Essex Street, Essex and Washington Street. That's less than half an acre. I mean, urban renewal zones can be very small. So why not have a Sullivan Square zone and get rid of all the other zones that we don't need? That's the kind of stuff that we want the BRA to be focusing on. So we're not trying to just kill them, and we're not trying to say zero zones, and we're not trying to say, oh, it's trickery and we're going to blow you up if you don't have any zones. A nice orderly sunsetting is what we're trying to go for. And I think a lot of the city councilors are being receptive to that. BRA has pulled off its request for 10 years. In the latest city council meeting, at the workshop meeting, Commissioner or Director Golden said that they're willing to go down to 7 years now. So they're offering 7. It's the first time that they've ever come off of 10 in this whole thing. That was something, and you could hear you know, Director Golden's voice crack as he was saying that. He was not happy about it, but he felt, you know, there was enough pressure on him. Most of the council, I think, wants to hold it a 2 to 5 year point. So the council is still way below the 7, and you know, maybe they'll split the difference at 5. I don't know. One of the things that we've said is we also need not just the duration of the length, but also we need some controls. We need to know, okay, well, okay, if we give you 5, what are you going to do for us? Are you going to have better run IAGs? Are you going to, you know, have more transparency? And the councilors, you know, your boss, you know, some of the other councilors, there are 4 that have gone on record vehemently opposed to the 10-year. Like, you know, we'll only accept 2, and that's Councilor Presley, Councilor Wu, and Michelle Wu as City Council President has, you know, the leadership capability to sort of steer this thing. So we're very happy that she's there. Councilor Zakem and Councilor Jackson, Tito Jackson. So anyhow, let me just take any final questions on this.
Dave Kubiak. The powers, urban renewal powers, are they given to the BRA's planning function or to their redevelopment function? For instance, if we were in a city that has real planning, a real planning board, for instance, a planning department and all that, which we should have, but unfortunately that was stolen from us by the BRA back in the 1960s. In a city that has a planning board and maybe a redevelopment agency, would the urban renewal powers go where?
In this city?
No, in
some other city.
another. I guess what I'm saying is, if in most cities urban renewal powers would be given to a planning board or a planning department, they would exercise them more responsibly than the BRA will, because the BRA does not do planning. It does redevelopment. It works with developers to create development. It does not work with the public to create city plans.
And you're going on a point that I think is important. Those of us who are interested, I think we probably can't spend much time on that because a lot of folks are probably thinking, what this is like really complex and maybe we shouldn't be discussing it here. But if you read some of these documents, particularly the McKinsey report, and there's a summary of the McKinsey report in here, it's called 718 Audit Summary. It's only 12 pages, definitely worth a read. But it basically says, this is the only agency in the whole country that has this weird, let's put planning and economic development together in a totally conflicted relationship. Every other city planning organization in the US, and frankly, they also looked at Singapore and Hong Kong and San Francisco, well, that's a US city, other Berlin. We have this weird structure, and so who knows if this were extracted and we had something that made more sense. You could have two separate organizations. Where the urban renewal powers would go, I can't answer them. I think I'm going to end it there. We have a lot of other stuff on the agenda. I'm going to postpone talking about liquor licensing anymore as well. We can take that up in a subsequent meeting. One thing I did want to say is many of you know that we were unhappy that the new liquor licensing board is pushing licenses through very quickly. There were these 10 licenses that Victor mentioned. Many people, not just Victor, have characterized them as, this has been a distorted process. If Victor is getting stares, some of the stuff that I've said about it suggests I shouldn't walk the streets. So, the good news is that we've had a conversation with Jerome Smith, who is the head of the Office of Neighborhood Services and in charge of outreach to neighborhoods. He's a cabinet level direct report of the mayor. He is going to host a meeting between us and the liquor licensing board, and we can try to find some common ground. But I don't think they really understand that pushing as fast as they're pushing is breaking our system and that of most other neighborhood groups. And it's just not working, and we want it to work better. And as Victor says, there's a lot of value out there. And sure, I mean, liquor licenses. There should be liquor licenses. We're not saying let's have prohibition, but just the process is broken, and we just need to work with it. So we're trying to take a positive approach, working with the various city officials to get everyone in a room and maybe have a conversation, maybe document the way it should work, and maybe we can get to the way it should work. We'll see. We'll keep you posted on what happens.